Week 3 had a ton of highly anticipated matchups, but none were closer than 8 points. We're going to break them all down for you. And a special guest analyst, many of you should recognize him from the summer. Upon popular demand, Greg Horn returned to the postgame show, the Week 3 postgame show, presented by no sponsor. So we're doing really big things here at the Legacy Leagues. I'm Joey Zacco, Mike Kendall, and Greg, as I already mentioned. Tyler and Connor smirking behind the camera. Let's start with that 8-point game, the closest margin of Week 3, Flint Tropics and the Throne. And we had some interesting things from that game after that game, as a result of that game. But first, let's talk about the game. Flint Tropics win 58-50. Whoever's going to jump in first on that one, I think it's Mike. What did Flint do to improve to 3-0? I'll use the air quotes, but they're really 2-1. They get their second win on the season.
And they said that in the interview. They said they were 3-0.
Every week.
Every week. And I expect it every week, sure.
Right.
But they really outmuscled Throne this week. They were dominant on the glass. A very foul-ridden game, but they frustrated Joe Basciello. He had a quiet night with 13 points. Mike Mizzou had 16. He played really well, and Flint just did enough to hold on to the victory this week. It was a tough-fought battle, but Flint, they can't keep fouling. I have 54 personal fouls to lead the Legacy Leagues, so they can't keep...
over 3 games.
Over 3 games.
That's a lot in one game.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure we get that right.
Over 3 games.
Right.
And they just can't keep doing that if they want to keep winning, because that's just going to lead to, points with, the clock keeps running throughout the game.
Easy points.
Easy points.
Easy points at the charity stripe. Anything else? Joe Bacciello frustrated is a great way to put it.
Corn dogs.
Corn dogs. Corn dogs. Their biggest Flint supporter on the postgame show on the perfect week for the Flint Tropics. Our game of the week. Hopefully everyone voted on Instagram. Chasers and Blue Devils. Blue Devils bench is something to see. Very loud. Blue Devils win 67-56. Chasers were number 2 in the power rankings, right? And so now I'm sure they're going to fall a little bit. Blue Devils were one of those teams that were a little on the lower ranked side just because they lost to No Limit and then won in Week 2. And I think they wanted this one for that exact reason. Put some respect on their name, right? What did we see them do tonight, Tuesday, on Court 1 to knock off the Chasers?
Well, the Blue Devils, their bench is fun to watch. They're definitely one of the most exciting teams, along with the Rimmbreakers, who I said last week. But I think the Chasers were without the Washington brothers, so that's a little bit gives them the edge in the power rankings this week. So I think I got to cut them a little slack. They, like you said, they were the number 2 team, but I still have confidence in the Chasers, even without the Washington brothers, because they did keep it close throughout the game. But the Blue Devils, they definitely look good. They play with a lot of heart. The bench is loud, like I said, and like I said, they're fun to watch.
A classic Chris Radzinski team, I think, from a lot of the makeup, from the excitement. They're very into it, and they care. Greg, you actually used to play with Chris Radzinski, former player turned intern. Yep. Anything from that game where Blue Devils were able to win?
Mike Davis, we say it all the time. He is like a switch. He turns, and then he just takes games over. He does it consistently, and you guys will see it this year. There'll be times where he'll score, pat a guy in their butt, and say, nice try, because you can't guard him. And when he gets in that mood, that's the thing I think that I like about the Blue Devils, and I know you guys will see, is Mike Davis has this switch that just gets turned, and he's easily top 5 player in this league, no doubt.
Let's touch on the other game from Tuesday night. A lot of close ones on Tuesday. Monday, not so much. Even the refs were actually making that comment. Like, hey, a lot of blowouts on Monday, and then the same league on Tuesday, we had some close ones. Monstars, Goon Squad. Monstars win. Goon Squad was down by, I saw 20. I know 20 at least at one point, and cut it to single digits in the final couple minutes, unable to come all the way back. Monstars win. I know Quintuan Miles had a good game. Reggie Stewart making threes early. And when that Monstars team, same as last year, when they're hitting their outside shots, they're a different team because of their length, because of their athleticism. What did you guys see from them against Goon Squad, who now I believe is 1-2, right? So after they won the first week, right? So now 2 straight losses for Goon Squad. They'll look to right the ship. But what did the Monstars do in Week 3?
So the score does not reflect how the Monstars played. Up until the third quarter, they were up 20 points going into the fourth. That team runs. I have not seen a team here that runs as much as they do the entire game. So that's something that I think really frustrates the other team. In the fourth quarter, the Goon Squad came back to 9. It was 79-70. But unfortunately, it was the defense of the Monstars that just shut them down. They couldn't come back.
Greg,
she's run. When she interviewed them, they said, we run. And I asked them what their game plan was. We run. And You got Quinton Miles, and I was saying, I forget who I was saying it to, Reggie Stewart in the playoffs is maybe the clutchest player in this league. And, I mean, Reggie time. It's just, I mean, that Monstars team I really think is the most overlooked team in this league right now. I think everyone's thinking about the Langstons not being there, and I think that Reggie and Pooch can definitely bring them to the promised land.
Reggie time triggers a whole bunch of fun memories for me, personally. He looks good in blue, by the way. I'm just going to leave that there. Stranger Danger and Team Moose. Team Moose wins. No moose hunting this week. Sorry, Flint. I was trying to hold it down for you. 66-56. It was around a 10-point game for much of the second half. Couple attempted runs by Stranger Danger. Not enough to ever, I don't think, really ever threaten Team Moose. What'd you guys see from that game? And what stood out from Team Moose, or what'd you see from them this week that maybe you didn't see last week when Flint seemed to really lock them down?
Well, I think they're really starting to figure out how to play without Connor Daly. He was definitely their all-star last year. He was an all-star in the league, and he's probably a top 10 player last year. And I think they're just trying to really figure out how to play without him. I mean, Brad is kind of running the offense. You can tell he's really frustrated out there because they're not really boxing out. I mean, Stranger Danger kept this close the entire time. I mean, Joey, you were hitting threes. Connor had a few big buckets.
Not
Tyler
many.
had a few big blocks. Matt Zacco had a great game. And honestly, I really think it was a plus for Stranger Danger. They played their hearts out, and they had a hard-fought game. But in the end, Team Moose is just too efficient of a team. Yeah. They've always been efficient. They don't turn the ball over. They don't make dumb passes. And when they do make dumb passes, they always call it out and correct it. And in the end, I think it was just less mistakes made by Team Moose that really gave them the edge.
Talking about a team that likes to run, Team Moose is always trying to run on makes or misses. And you're going to need rim protection from multiple people to stop them because they continue to attack, continue to execute. And smaller teams will have trouble with them. And that's what Flint, I think, was able to do. They have some bigger guys who can take away the easy buckets for them, and that was the difference last week. Team Moose this week on the correct side of the score. No limit shooters shoot. Huge margin, 96-58. A lot of pressing going on. Reminded me of the Brotherhood in some sense in that form. Not a lot of letting up in the second half. Maybe has to do with Twitter. Maybe not. Definitely does. So No Limit wins, 3-0. And they're proving to be one of the better teams in this league, taking care of the teams they're supposed to. And we'll see when they get some better opponents. But anything kind of more on the quick side, we have the last three were wider margins. I think we all expected the teams that won to win. So yeah, what did No Limit do?
Okay, so what I have seen so far is that a lot of these teams, they get lost in the dunks and the hitting threes all the time. But when it comes down to the basketball basics, this team plays good ball on both sides. They have a lockdown defense. They full court press the entire time, and then on offense, they don't stop. Like they shoot, they pass. They had 21 assists. They had 5 players with double-digit points. They are just a team that likes to, give to everybody. And it's really fun to watch them play.
Sharing the ball and balance. And you mentioned shooters, Howie Miller, Derek Davis. You guys will get to know all those guys, I'm sure. And then Shaquan Jackson and Eric Singleton supply the dunking. And we haven't even talked about Terrell Vargas, who's a former MVP. So Will Hudson has been quiet, but we all know what he can do. So I just named their whole team. So that's how No Limit rolls. Rim Breakers, BS&B, couple of West Haven teams squaring off. It's nothing like the Kakambas and Lob rivalry. Sorry to bring that up. Greg knows what I'm talking about. But this is still a West Haven rivalry. Rim Breakers win. It was a close game in the first half. I think I heard today BS&B trailed by 5 at halftime, and they lose by 40+. So what did the Rim Breakers do in the second half to improve to 3-0? They're undefeated. They're one of our last few undefeated teams. What they do?
Yeah, I mean, I want to first shout out the Rim Breakers. They're 3-0. I mean, that's a hell of a start, 3-0. I mean, and I'm going to shout out Stuckey too. He would call them men. They are men out there. And from Zeke Howard to Carl Fairfax to Kavion, I mean, they got big guys out there who, if you want to beat the Rim Breakers, you have to play them physical, the same way you play the Throne, the same way you play Flint, the same way you play No Limit. And we saw that last year when No Limit played the Monstars in the finals. The presence of the two big men of Greg and Eric Langston kind of forced No Limit to play differently, and that hurt them. And I think the Rim Breakers have a really interesting mesh of people who can attack the basket and big guys who know what their roles are. And I think that's really interesting going forward. I want to see them play higher level of competition. Not that they haven't, but I'm really interested in this Rim Breakers team, and I was very impressed at them starting 3-0.
I was talking to Jake Van Zant and Brandon Massaro before so they just played the Rim Breakers last week before their game in week 3, and they said the Rim Breakers are still one of the new teams that are like trying to do some dunks and like feel out how to play, but they can really shoot it, Goon Squad said, and that was something that caught them off guard when the Rim Breakers beat them in week 2. So, Rim Breakers 3-0. And moving on, last game, Temptations and Semi-Pro. I don't know if Semi-Pro, how many did they have at the half? Does anyone know? Because they scored 30, so it was 94-30, the Temptations.
15 at the half.
15, so 15 in each half is usually not going to get it done in the Legacy Leagues. Temptations, without Carmine Santarelli, was hearing injury stuff. Carmine has just sat out games in the past, like for fun, so that's a thing too. But the Temptations roll, Melquan Horton, another great game. But what did they do? Are they 3? They're 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. So Temptations are also up there as one of those teams to keep an eye on. What did they do in week 3?
Melquan Horton. He had probably the best game
Plain and simple.
one of the best games I've ever seen in Legacy League history. I mean, I'm not going to name them off, but I mean, with Carmine Santarelli out, you really look for people like Nick Santarelli, Jalen Eggleston to really step up. And Jalen didn't shoot very well, but he played the point guard role well and kind of distributed and did what he needed to do. I mean, Nick Santarelli plays a hell of a defensive game. He's one of the best lockdown defenders we have in this league. And the Temptations are really interesting once Carmine comes back, if he's injured or if he's not playing, how they can really work. Because Melquan, I think we'd all agree, is a star now, absolutely. Every game he brings it, and he plays lockdown defense. So I'm really interested to see how they mesh together once Carmine comes back.
Speaking of Carmine, didn't give him any love last week. He also broke 1,000 career points. We shout out Mike Davis in week 1, ignore Carmine in week 2. Of course, just classic what I do. That'll about wrap it up for week 3. I was going to say something else before we left. Can't remember. Follow the site. Power Rankings, top plays, Stucky Standout. Should be a good one this week. Will be a familiar name even though he's not here. That's about it. Any last thoughts? I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. Can't remember. That'll do it for the post-game show. For the crew, I'm Joey. Follow the site, thelegacyleagues.com, @legacy_leagues, and thanks for watching.